So in this class, we're going to get started. We're going to get everyone started in classical arithmetic. We'll take some time to introduce the quadrivium, which is the four mathematical arts of the classical curriculum, and then we'll try to get through the first chapter of our textbook. So let's be kind of quick with this introduction. When we talk about the seven liberal arts, the Classical Liberal Arts Academy, we talk about seven liberal arts. Seven liberal arts. Seven liberal arts. And if we list them, they start with grammar, reasoning, rhetoric, arithmetic, music, geometry, and last, astronomy. These are the seven liberal arts. These are the seven arts which all throughout history, at least since the time of classical Greece, have been taught as the curriculum of wise men. This is, if modern schools followed the wisdom of the ancients, this would be the school curriculum. So when you look at the school curriculum and you see that this is not the school curriculum, you see that modern education does not follow the wisdom of the ancients. The seven liberal arts are the seven arts, the seven skills that are needed for the pursuit of wisdom. And they divide into two groups. The first three are referred to as the Trivium. And you've probably seen these words all over the website, things like that. The Trivium refer to these three arts, and the Quadrivium refer to these four arts. These three arts, the Trivium, have to do with language and ideas or reasoning. These four arts all have to do with the study of quantity. Arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. Four different kinds of quantity. We're going to ignore the Trivium because this is classical arithmetic class and we're not going to talk about that. Here we're going to focus on the Quadrivium. And as I said, the Quadrivium is four parts of the study of quantity. And if we write quantity up top here, we've learned in all of our, even modern math classes, we've learned that quantity is anything that can increase or be diminished. Anything that can increase or diminish in number or size. Quantity divides into two different species. I hope that you know these by now. Multitude and magnitude. Multitude and magnitude are the two species, the two divisions, two kinds of quantity. Multitude divides into two species. Multitude divides into absolute multitude and relative multitude. Magnitude divides into magnitude at rest and in motion. Multitude divides into absolute and relative. Magnitude divides into magnitude at rest and magnitude in motion. What this produces for us are 4 different kinds of quantity. 4 different kinds of quantity. Absolute multitude, relative multitude, magnitude at rest, magnitude in motion. 4 different kinds of quantity. And if we want to study these 4 different kinds of quantity, we need 4 different sciences. And those 4 different sciences are arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. So we can't debate about what the math curriculum, if we're pursuing wisdom and we want to study quantity, there's no debate about what the curriculum would be. We have to study arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy, and here they are. Arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy, that's the quadrivium. That's where they come from. They're the 4 sciences or 4 arts by which we study to understand quantity. And you'll understand more about quantity when we study Aristotle's categories in classical reasoning. Okay, so at this point, you should know what the 7 liberal arts are. You should know what the 7 liberal arts are. Should be able to name them in order, because this is an order. All right, this isn't just a random list. This isn't just a random list. This is an order of 7 liberal arts. And they divide into 2 groups, the arts of the trivium, 3 arts of the trivium, and 4 arts of the quadrivium. You should know what those are. And then you should understand that mathematics is the study of quantity. There's 2 kinds of quantity, multitude and magnitude. There are 2 kinds of multitude and 2 kinds of magnitude. To study them, we need 4 mathematical arts. And that's where this quadrivium comes from. Okay? In this course, we're going to study classical arithmetic, the study of absolute multitude. Absolute multitude. And I'm not going to talk about what that is because we're going to study it in this book. We're going to get right into it, so I don't need to spend time introducing too much. That's what I wanted to provide as an introduction, just to show you where arithmetic is. This course, this classical arithmetic course, not modern arithmetic, classical arithmetic, where it is in philosophy as we divide quantity into its different kinds, and where it is in the 7 liberal arts in our classical studies. Okay? We're studying classical arithmetic in this course. It's not a modern mathematical study. It's an ancient philosophical study. One of the 4 arts of the quadrivium. And in this lesson, we're going to jump right into lesson 1. So let's take a look. Book 1, chapter 1. Where are we at with time?
9 minutes.
Oh, good. That was only 9 minutes. Pretty good. All right, chapter 1 of book 1. Before we get started, I should say something about this book. This book is called The Introduction to Arithmetic. It's an ancient text, originally written in Greek. Introduction to Arithmetic by a philosopher named Nicomachus, or in Latin, Nikomakos. In Greek, the accent is on that first O. Nikomakos. Nikomakos. Okay? That's the name of the author. The name that you see in this book with a US ending is just the Latin form of that Greek name. Okay? It's pronounced Nikomakos. Nikomakos. It's a Greek name. He wrote this introduction to the art of arithmetic, and it's considered to be the classic textbook on classical arithmetic, translated, thankfully for us, into English, so we don't have to wait until we master Greek language to study it. This is a book that's been studied for thousands of years. And it's our textbook in classical arithmetic. Okay, so we're studying Nikomakos' introduction to arithmetic in the Classical Liberal Arts Academy's Classical Arithmetic course. All right, so just to get right into it, Book 1, Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the topic of Lesson 1. So let's read through Chapter 1 together, and I'll explain anything that seems to be unclear. We read, the ancient philosophers, who under the leader of Pythagoras was an ancient philosopher who taught the science of mathematics. The ancients who under the leadership of Pythagoras first made science systematic, defined philosophy as the love of wisdom. The ancient philosophers defined philosophy as the love of wisdom. Sounds familiar, right? That's how we've always defined philosophy. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. That's how the ancient philosophers following Pythagoras defined philosophy. So if a man said that he was a philosopher, it meant that he was a lover of wisdom. It meant that he pursued wisdom more or instead of anything else. The name itself means this. The name philosophy, philosophia in Greek, the name Sophia means wisdom. If you ever hear the name Sophia, it means wisdom. And philo comes from the Greek word phileo, which means I love. So philosophia is close to saying I love wisdom. I am a lover of wisdom, or the love of wisdom. Okay? Philosophy, that's what philosophy means. The word means the love of wisdom, so it's no great breakthrough that the ancient philosophers defined philosophy as the love of wisdom. It's what the word means. But before Pythagoras, the word philosophy or the word wisdom was understood in a strange kind of way. Anyone who had any skill was called wise. In the ancient world before Pythagoras, anyone who had skill was called wise. So if there was a man who was good at making boats, he was called wise. He was a wise boat maker, right? If there was a woman who was excellent and skilled in baking, she would be called a wise baker. If there was a man who was a successful farmer, he would be called a wise farmer. All right? Before Pythagoras, the word wisdom or wise was used to describe anyone who was skilled in any way. And Nikomakos explains some examples for us. A carpenter, for example, a cobbler, a helmsman, anyone who is versed in any art or handicraft was called wise. But Pythagoras changed that. Pythagoras, restricting the title so as to apply to the knowledge and comprehension of reality. And this is an interesting idea. This idea of reality. What's funny about this idea of reality we're going to learn is that Pythagoras, what Pythagoras called real, like when we say, oh, come on, how does this apply to real life? What does this have to do with reality? Pythagoras explained that reality is the opposite of what most people say reality is. What most people say by reality is they mean like in the flesh, something I can see, something I can use. That's what's real. Pythagoras says, no, that's actually not what's real. What's real are the things we cannot see. And you'll see this is explained later in this lesson. Okay, so before Pythagoras, they used the phrase wise in an indiscriminate way. Anyone who was versed in any art or handicraft was called wise. Pythagoras, though, restricted the use of this title. So Pythagoras argued that we should only call wise people who have the knowledge of reality, people who understand reality. The knowledge of the truth, wisdom is not any art or skill. Wisdom is the knowledge of the truth. The knowledge of reality. Pythagoras argued that wisdom is to know the truth. Wisdom is to know reality. That's what wisdom truly is. This is the only wisdom, Pythagoras argued. The knowledge of the truth is the only real wisdom. And the title of a wise man should only be given to a man who knows this truth. And the desire and pursuit of this knowledge of the truth is what Pythagoras called philosophy. Philosophy was the desire for wisdom, the love of wisdom, but wisdom meant the knowledge of the truth. Okay, so what does philosophy mean? Philosophy is the love of wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the knowledge of the truth. So if you know how to grow tomatoes, but you don't study philosophy, Pythagoras says you are not a wise man. The knowledge of the truth is wisdom. He, in the next paragraph, read along with me, Pythagoras is more worthy of credence. Credence means trust and respect. Pythagoras is more worthy of credence than those who have given other definitions to philosophy, because he makes clear the sense of the term, the meaning of the word, that is, and the definition. Pythagoras' definition of philosophy is better because it makes sense of the word and of the idea. Some people will define philosophy and it doesn't have anything to do with the word philosophy, which means love of wisdom. Only Pythagoras' definition actually made sense with the word itself. And therefore it says he is more worthy of credence than other philosophers and other definitions of philosophy. This wisdom, Pythagoras defined as the knowledge or science of the truth in real things. And again, we have this expression, real things or reality. And we're going to see what Pythagoras means by reality. Knowledge of the truth in real things. Science, so what is science? Here's Pythagoras' definition of science. Science is a steadfast and firm apprehension of the underlying substance of things. Science is a steadfast, that means unchanging. Science is a steadfast and firm apprehension. Apprehension means understanding. A steadfast and firm understanding of the underlying substance of things. Or have you ever heard this idea of underlying substance? Have you ever heard of that before? Underlying substance. It's what we talk about in the Eucharist. When the bread, the substance of the bread is changed into the substance of the body of Christ, the underlying substance of something, the underlying substance of something is the real thing itself. Knowledge of the underlying substance of things is real knowledge. That's wisdom. That knowledge is true science. So for example, if I look at you and you have a blue sweatshirt on, you have a black sweatshirt on, you've got a red shirt on, you've got a blue shirt on, one person might have blonde hair, one person has brown hair, one has blue eyes, one has brown eyes, one is tall, one is short, one is American, one is Chinese. Are any of those things the underlying substance of what a person is? Are any of those things the underlying substance of what a person is? No, right? Those are qualities. Those are accidents or qualities of the persons, but that's not the underlying substance of what a person is. Every single person, with all of their differences, the underlying substance is what makes each person the same. They're all man. They're all rational animals. That's the underlying substance of man. So to know a man, to Pythagoras, to know a man means to know his underlying substance, what he really is. That's what true science is, according to Pythagoras. A steadfast, unchanging. So if Isaiah over here changes his shirt every day and puts a different color shirt on every day, or dyes his hair a different color every day, does he change? Does his underlying substance change? It stays the same. But outside external qualities change. Accidents change. But the underlying substance of what he is does not change. That's what we mean by reality. Truth in real things. Science is a steadfast and firm understanding of the underlying substance of things, what they really are. And quote-unquote real things. Real things, this is very important. Real things are those which continue uniformly, that is, without changing. Those things that continue uniformly and the same in the universe and never depart from their existence. Things that never change. Those are real things. Anything that changes is not a real thing. And that doesn't mean change his shirt or change his hair color. That's not what it means. Those are external things. Anything that does not change its underlying substance, actually change what it is, or is changed, that's a real thing. A real thing, follow me here, a real thing is a thing that exists forever. That's a real thing. Something that exists forever is real. Things that come and go, things that change, things that grow and decay, those are not real things. Real things never change. And so for Pythagoras, wisdom was the study of real things, the knowledge of real things, things that never change. Does the nature of man ever change? That's a real thing. Never changes. The nature of man, rational animal, never changes. That's a real thing. All right? Real things are those things which continue uniformly and the same in the universe and never depart from their existence. They always exist. Anything that always exists is real, and anything that does not always exist, according to Pythagoras, anything that does not always exist is not real. Okay? A wise man is a man who studies and meditates on real things, not on things that come and go, not on things that are temporary, but on things that always exist. That's what a wise man studies and meditates on. These real things, the textbook continues, these real things are things immaterial. They are not material things. These real things are not material. So let me ask you this. When we study modern science, does modern science study reality according to Pythagoras? No. Modern science studies material things. And Pythagoras teaches real things are immaterial. They are not the material things. So what Pythagoras calls science is exactly the opposite of what modern scientists call science. The opposite. What Pythagoras calls real is the opposite of what modern people call real. These real things would be things that are not material, immaterial, by sharing in the substance of which everything else that exists under the same name is so called and said to be this particular thing. So if we say man, and there's 100 different creatures, and every one of them we point to and say, this is a man, this is a man, this is a man, this is a man. When we say the word man, we mean the same thing for every one of those creatures. And what that man really is something that's not material. It's an idea. It's the definition, the essence of man. And a wise man knows man as he exists always in all people. You understand that? Kind of? Sort of? This is philosophy. It's new, but it's not difficult to understand. It's just maybe unfamiliar. You just have to learn to get used to the words and the expressions and these ideas. Okay? So understand, though, what's important to understand is the difference between what Pythagoras says is real and what a modern scientist says is real. They're actually the opposite. The idea of man, Pythagoras says, that's what's real. It never changes. It exists forever. But the body of a man, that's not real. It changes. It dies. That's not real. But the essence of a man, that's what's real. And that's what wise men study. Let's see here. We might be close to the end. Oh, one more paragraph. Page 198 in this document. Let's finish up. Last paragraph. Bodily material things, that is the stuff that's studied in modern science. Bodily material things are forever involved in continuous flow and change. Bodily material things are forever involved in continuous flow and change. They're constantly changing. Bodily things are constantly changing. And constantly doesn't necessarily mean every second. Like these desks, they don't disappear every second. They're not constantly disappearing and reappearing and disappearing and reappearing. That's not what he means by constantly. He just means they're always in a process of decay. These desks are slowly decaying, as you can see by looking at them, right? They're not what they were when we first bought them. They're slowly breaking down, and eventually they're going to end up in the garbage pile someplace, and the metal will be recycled and the wood will be destroyed by decomposing, and someday in the future, maybe somebody will take new wood and new metal and make new desks. The idea of a desk is eternal. But that desk, that physical, material desk, it's constantly changing. It's breaking down and going back to the elements from which it was taken. Bodily material things are forever involved in continuous flow and change in imitation of the nature and peculiar quality of the eternal matter and substance which has been from the beginning and which was all changeable and variable throughout. The matter, that is, of the world, the elements of the world. Do you know what the four elements are? What the ancient philosophers taught the four elements were? Do you know what they were? Fire, air, water, and earth. So what ancient philosophy teaches is that those four elements are the four materials that exist in the universe. Fire, air, water, and earth. And everything that's material is just constantly breaking down back into those elements. And then we take those elements and we build them into different things, and they just start breaking back down into those things. And that process goes on forever. The tree grows out of the soil. It produces leaves. The leaves die. They fall to the ground. They return to soil. Right? It's just a constant process of generation, of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. The bodiless things, however, the things which don't have material bodies, the bodiless things of which we conceive, which we think of and understand in connection with or together with matter, the bodiless things that we think about. And he lists them here. Qualities, quantities, configurations, largeness, smallness, equality, relations, actualities, dispositions, places, times, all these things, in a word, all these things whereby the qualities found in each body are comprehended, these are immovable and unchangeable. These things themselves. But accidentally, as accidents, they share in and partake of the affections of bodies to which they belong. And it is with these things that wisdom is concerned. It is with these things that list their qualities, quantities, configurations, largeness, smallness, that list of things. And we're going to understand that more when we get into Aristotle's reasoning. Those are the real things. But we are interested in them accidentally because they participate in physical things. Physical things share in these timeless and unchangeable things. These bodies that break down and decay and change, they participate in these different qualities, these things that don't change. A wise man studies the things that don't change, but he's also interested in physical things because they are related to these things that don't change. So in chapter 1 here, that's the end of chapter 1. In chapter 1, we're introduced to the teaching of Pythagoras, and I know that at this time of the day, this may be difficult for you to concentrate on. But what we're learning about, and what I want you to understand as we finish this first chapter in arithmetic, I want you to get this idea in your head of what Nicomachos is talking about, which is this Pythagorean idea of reality. Reality refers to things that are immovable, he says, unchanging. Everything that's physical is movable and changing. Everything that's physical is constantly changing. And therefore, anything that's physical, Pythagoras says, is not, quote unquote, real. It's not real. It's temporary. It's temporary. It's not real. That's not the real thing. The things that you see and taste and smell and touch and hear, those are not the real things. The real things are the things that exist forever. The qualities, the quantities, and so on. Things that are in these physical things. We see them in these physical things, but we need to abstract them. We need to remove these ideas from physical things and think about the ideas themselves, because that's reality. Those ideas are reality. And the knowledge of those ideas, that knowledge is wisdom. And this is the exact opposite of what modern materialist scientists call reality. They'll say things like, we don't believe in God, we study reality. Pythagoras would say, no, actually, you have it all backwards. You study things that are constantly changing. You don't study reality. We study reality, things that do not change. So that's what Nicomachos introduces in chapter 1. So these are things that you need to know from chapter 1. What is philosophy? What is wisdom? What is science? What is reality? All those things Nicomachos discussed in chapter 1. What is philosophy? The love of wisdom. What is wisdom? The knowledge of truth in real things. What are real things? Real things are immaterial things that never change, that never depart from their existence, are always what they are. Those are real things. The knowledge of those things is wisdom. And the pursuit of that wisdom is philosophy. That's what Nicomachos teaches us in chapter 1. And that's the end of this first lesson.